Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Sadly, she passed on 1/1/2020, so we started TogetherForSharon.com in her memory and to advocate today for a cure for all those still battling Parkinson's and their families, because no one is ever alone in this fight. Today's guest is somebody who's very, again, I always start by saying important, but this individual is so important worldwide. That's why I like to
Thank
put
you.
a little spin to that. So I want to welcome Miriam to the show. She's been somebody I know and care a lot about for over a few years now. It's amazing how quickly time flies, but this is the first time we've gotten to see each other and also share awareness. So it's an honor to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here and it's nice to meet you.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, you do such incredible things. We're going to talk about shaking of Parkinson's, some of the articles you write, and World Parkinson Congress, which I hope, if my health's okay, that I get to give you a real hug, not just a
Okay.
virtual hug in Arizona. But maybe we could start if you could tell us just a little bit about yourself and what brought you into the world of awareness.
Okay. Well, I live in Manhattan and Amagansett, which is in Eastern Long Island in the Hamptons. But
That's beautiful.
um,
Maybe the whole show has to change to that now instead
I
of.
have to give you the beach background and the bay background. But it's really beautiful, and it was one of the things that was great when my younger daughter went. I have two daughters, and when my younger daughter left for college a year ago, we made our primary residence out there. And
Well,
it's really been a game changer because the environment is so important to your well-being. But I grew up in the suburbs of New York and I live in New York for like, I don't know how many years, 25, 30 years, 25 years. And I had a stint in San Francisco, which I loved for 3 years. And I was diagnosed with Parkinson's when I was 44. And I had two kids, two girls at ages 5 and 3. So it was quite a shock. And that brought me to the world of Parkinson's. Of course, it took me about 8 years to start getting out there and getting involved.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And so you really did kind of encounter this at young onset, which is
Yeah.
important. And also the last few shows, not planned, but ironically have brought a lot of incredible, like yourself, inspiring women around the world who are now talking about advocacy, but important issues and for females, because it's something obviously I can't talk on, but I think it's so important to reach people out there, young women, all age women, but bringing more attention to the topic of women and Parkinson's, because as you probably know better than me, I don't think it was something at the forefront of conversation 10 years ago.
No, there's not that much research. There's more and more
Yeah.
interest coming and doing research on women, and what I've heard is they're finding that there's many differences in the way women's bodies react and absorb medication, and there's just a lot of different things to look at with hormones, for
Okay.
example, and that's me, me, why am I forgetting the word? Menopause is
Oh,
a
that's
big area of research too.
no, I think it's so important to talk about these areas that people are so curious about and need to know, but it's just not out there. So thanks for your work and advocacy. Also, send a hug to New York. I'm from Brooklyn, so
You are?
yeah, born and raised there. I did 18 years and left. We're in Florida, but
I don't blame you. It's nice down
I have
there.
I hope I didn't walk by. Were you at the Michael J. Fox Unity Walk last year? Because we were.
I wasn't because I
All
had some serious back issues,
right.
which I know
Me
you
too.
can relate to.
We have too
But
much in common.
yeah, but I'm thankful because I suffered for about over a year with nerve impingement and I have like some stenosis and arthritis in my lower back, and a lot of it comes from my gait issues, which is the hardest part about having Parkinson's for me. It's made a lot of problems, but I'm happy to say that after a year and a half, I'm working with a physical therapist and a trainer that I've been able to minimize the nerve pain. And that was like a life-changing moment
I'm
because
glad.
it's so debilitating.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And it is another area you just brought up how important physical therapy and exercise is for individuals diagnosed. And I always say the caregiver too, because for mental health and so
Yeah.
many issues surrounding these areas, it's important to keep exercising, and we'll have to have a second show about back issues, which is still continuing.
Yeah,
So
I'm so sorry.
thanks, no, I appreciate it. But you know how I am. I don't allow that to stop.
No, nothing stops you.
I always tell everyone don't look, but see, I'm actually wearing a brace right now.
Oh,
The,
no.
the only
I
way to,
hope to deal. So
yeah,
I hope that you feel better and
thanks.
that you make some progress.
I appreciate it. Maybe you
Sure.
could touch a little bit since we started, but a little bit about advocacy and how it impacted your journey.
Yeah. I was like pretty in denial for the first 8 years. I'm at 16 years, so I have a lot I can say about how I've evolved over and how the disease has evolved. But I was really like, I just didn't want to go to any support groups or be involved in identifying in any way with the disease. But then after 8 years, I realized I need some support, and I had heard about the World Parkinson's Congress. And I took myself and I met my good friend, from my childhood friend, came with me. And we went to Portland, Oregon, and I saw that there was like this whole community of people that do a lot of things to like make progress in getting awareness and funds to research, and just the whole young onset Parkinson's was a community. And so I also went to Kyoto 3 years later, and I decided that was going to help me plan my travel. I would go wherever the World Parkinson Congress went. And when I went to Kyoto, I went to a workshop for young onset Parkinson's, and I met Larry Gifford and a lot of people who are really have been influential in the field and who have Parkinson's. And I decided to apply for ambassador to World Parkinson Congress, which I was a part of that team for Barcelona 2023. And it was really amazing. It was just like the conferences offer so much information and knowledge and community building. And I did a lot to over a 4 year period from 2020 to 2023. We worked on communicating and building awareness and raising money to send people for like a for people who had applied for it, who couldn't afford to go. And so we did that for scientists and for individuals. But anyway, I did a lot of presentations and educating people about what the Congress is. It brings together like physicians and researchers and people with Parkinson's and anybody that serves the community. So I felt like that was really good advocacy. Also, just putting out my blog and sharing my story is advocacy, because you're helping people who have Parkinson's who can relate to these issues and feel like they're not alone. And you can also help to educate people that have relatives or caregivers who don't really know, because there's a lot that people don't know about Parkinson's. Like some people, you can have so many different symptoms, but you can have like a frozen face, or where you can't express, you don't smile naturally, and you don't have an expression in your eyes. It's called mask face, and you can have trouble with your voice. And so when you're going out to dinner with friends, nobody can hear you because you can't project. But there's things you can do for all of those. One of Some can be pretty fun too. Like I'm part of an improv group for Parkinson's, and we did a live performance around the World Parkinson Congress last year in Barcelona, and we do a weekly, like 11-week sessions. We have a lot of fun, and it just is like a great outlet. I also do ping pong for Parkinson's, and I joined the YOPN group, Young Onset Parkinson's Network. Um, I do Michael J. Fox cycling events, and I just did one in this Sonoma County, which was great.
Mm.
So, but the way it's impacted my life is that I now have friends in the community. I'm not isolated. I feel like I'm doing something that gives me a sense of purpose, that I'm helping to bring along awareness and funds so that we can get closer to a cure.
Yeah, I think a lot of things you said are so inspiring and important, and hopefully everyone listening can share this talk, because there are people, and even if we reach one like you, kind of rewind 20 years ago, sitting there wondering if they're alone, and then you can see you as an incredible image of what would be if everybody got involved. And that's why I try to reach people who also are not in the Parkinson's community, because even if someone isn't diagnosed, it's likely now, unfortunately, that someone in their family or community has it. So it's so important to keep doing what you're doing. I wanted to take a moment now to share some of these incredible things you're discussing. This is an amazing young lady that you might recognize.
Thank you.
And, I always joke with the people, all my amazing guests, but we've known each other, since 2023. It's already September, so over a year. And I want to thank you for your, help too, and working together and inspiration, because I think together our voices are so much stronger. And this is, if everybody listening goes to TogetherForSharon.com, click interview, and then you can find more on Miriam, about the organization, which we're going to cover now, about her journey, some other really in-depth discussion that we might not get to touch on today. So I want to thank you for that. And then the most important thing is, and as we speak, see, I'm signing up. I like to do it live. So I just see how easy it is, everyone listening. There's no excuses. You could take 1 second if you go to shakingupparkinson.com and you support Miriam and all she does, her incredible work. I just subscribe. All you do is put your email, click press. That's it. There's not much to ask. So maybe you could talk a little bit about this beautiful blog and the site. I share it a lot, and then I can scroll a little while you're telling us.
Okay. Well, I talked about how in the first one, how I was losing my voice and I was not able to project and people couldn't hear me and it made me not want to go out to dinner and I just felt really frustrated that nobody could hear me. And then I kind of said that I was taking it back for the new year. And I worked on deep breathing and breath work and how to use my diaphragm. And it was just like something that people may not have known that people with Parkinson's struggle with. But what I wanted to do with this blog is set up like a series of vignettes, short stories that don't take a lot of time to read, but that touch on something very deep and give people an eye into what it's like and what are the things that confront people when they have Parkinson's. Like when I got my handicap sticker, it took me years. My husband was like, get a handicap thing so we can park closer. And because I was having a lot of trouble walking.
Yeah.
At one point it comes and goes, but I realized like I didn't have to worry about the stigma. Like I could do that and I deserved to be able to park closer. So I didn't have as much trouble getting around, but it was hard to come to terms with that.
Yeah, one thing I love that you do is you don't just advocate, you kind of help people with their tips. And even while we speak, you're very unique and important to me and help amazing info, really voice, but also information and resources, because a lot of time, we just talk about issues, but we don't give tips. I know I find myself not even giving much because I was with my mother through her journey. She had it for, we think, 15 years. So it was tough and struggle. But I'm always spending time on, about what Parkinson's disease is, that we never have time to get to those amazing tips that you're kind of providing. And that's why I recommend everyone listening to please subscribe for free to Miriam's blog. And I think it's a journey that you can follow that's beautiful and touching. And I wanted to thank you again for sharing that. And then I also found that you're a writer, which I love. Like, I'm a writer, but I enjoy your writing. And here is for PDYs, which we're having the Mr. Cole on our show soon. I'm excited, but maybe you
Good.
could talk a little bit about, and you do so much. I don't think I can even keep up. I thought I was doing. But maybe you
Thank
could
you.
touch on these kind of opportunities are amazing.
Yeah, this was my first published piece and he
Congratulations.
was kind enough I submitted it to him and he was kind enough to publish it. It was just this moment that I had. I had been doing writing for some years and I was doing a class called writing for, it wasn't called writing for healing, but that was what it was. It was a class where you could go and we had a facilitator and she was excellent. And we all wrote about like whatever issue we had. And so from that, this was during COVID when we were staying in our house in the Hamptons. And I was just looking outside at the rose bush and this came to me. I just like felt like kind of just wanted to say how I was feeling. It came out very poetically. but it was a very insightful moment for me and like creative. It really connected me to myself, like my true self and the inner voice that I had. I almost feel like it was channeled, but it was really like felt great to write it. And I was very happy that I did because it's kind of writing is really healing journey because you can write it your feelings and tap into what really is going on for you. And it takes you outside the everyday minutia and brings you to a more spiritual place. And that's helped me a lot.
No, I agree. I think that's a great way everyone out there can try to, put their thoughts together. And I also did that in my book, Son's Journey. I wasn't going to write a book. I never dreamed that I've written books in like the law because I'm a police officer, a reserve and
Mhm.
lawyer. I also have my PhD in criminal justice from my background, but I kept a
Wow.
journal the last year of my mother's life. It was really just for myself. And I actually wrote the time and the date of her last year and what we were going through. And from
Wow.
hallucinations to delusions to everything you can even never want to know or want
Yeah.
to know. And I decided to put in a book only because, like you said, it helps me still grieve today and cope, and also helps my mother still kind of live through everybody I meet. And, it's out there now, but it's not easy to always do that because you're sharing your innermost secrets and, thinking. But I think it's important to share it because, again, there's someone out there who I think is going through what you and I are, and maybe they won't feel alone if they know they're not alone.
And when you journal, it's really like a way to take it out of your head
Mm.
and like get it out there. And it's good for the person reading it. It's also
Yeah.
good for you.
Well, thank you for that.
Congratulations on your book.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. I'll have to get you a copy. But the
Yeah.
next most important area you mentioned is the World Parkinson Coalition or Congress. Will you
Yeah.
be attending in 2026
Yes, in
or
Phoenix.
I have
Yeah.
a if I am able to make it, I joke, and I probably won't go to any lectures. I'll be in the hallways meeting you and everybody.
Okay.
I'll
That
probably be in the
sounds
hall.
good.
I think I'm going to be overwhelmed though, because there's so many people I love and want to meet and hug, and it's just not going to be enough time.
I
I'll,
hope you can be there. It's gonna
I
be
appreciate
great. They're
that.
always, would this be your first Congress or have you
Yeah,
been?
unfortunately, due to work, I can't get out of
Yeah.
the house much, but this is the opportunity because it's in the US and
Yeah.
might be an important and only one I have the opportunity. So as long as I might have to do more back issues, so we'll see how it goes, but I am planning hopefully to be there and so
Excellent.
many people too. I would love to just get a little picture and to say hi, like
Yeah,
you.
me too.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Will you be on the board this year?
No, they let you do your ambassadorship for one, and then they
Or,
like to switch it up. But I was on the committee to review the applications, and they picked the new set of ambassadors, and one of them's in my women's support group.
nice.
So
Well, hope to
that's
meet
good.
you and all the board and everybody because we love, I mean, when I found out there were about 10 million people around the world with Parkinson's, it kind of broke my heart again. When I thought there were just a million or a little bit more in the US. And that's why
Right.
I decided to go on the journey and we met of interviewing over 1,000 people around the world because Parkinson's, unfortunately, doesn't discriminate, affects everybody and anyone. And we really need everyone on this kind of boat to get them closer to a cure. So thanks for sharing
Yeah.
all
I'm
that.
still I'm still active as a WPC alumni. We're gonna get shirts apparently
Wow,
for
nice.
the conference.
I already have my Parky. If I had a pause
Okay.
button, I have to remember next show to keep them near me. But
Yeah.
I got the
I
new
think I
one. I
saw
love,
you did had a picture with it.
love the Parkies. I have two now, even though I would buy them all just to support World Parkinson Congress.
Oh,
They don't sell the old ones. So but I want to get a picture of Parky one day. We actually,
definitely.
we asked Parky to come on the show. I'm still waiting. So Parky, if you're listening, I'm not kidding. I don't know. They won't be able to speak much, but just to help promote World Parkinson, I would love to have
Oh,
Parky on. We have had Eli on, which was amazing in
she's
conversation.
great.
And she was amazing. And so I want to shift a little now to a fun part of the show where we not just wrap up, but talk a little bit more about you. Can you list three words that describe who you are?
Fun, uh, to, loyal, and determined.
I love those. And what is one moment, you kind of mentioned a few, but what is one moment or most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with awareness today that you can share? They're probably all really important, but maybe there's just that one.
That's a good question.
Thanks.
I think when I spoke at a local um, group called, I forget the name of it, they're based in Rockland County. Then I spoke and I shared my story to the crowd. And it was the first time I'd ever done that. And it felt really, at first I was a little nervous, but then as I got warmed up, I felt empowered by the ability to reach all these people and be able to stand up and tell my personal story. So that one stands out.
Yeah, that's an amazing moment. I mean, it's we kind of put our own, we self-sacrifice our own thoughts and meaning to help others, and it's a great way to do that by speaking. And I appreciate you speaking to us today too. This question's important to me. Who helps you during times of struggle? Because a lot of time, obviously, you're the face and the awareness and doing incredible things, but just curious if there's someone kind of behind the scenes we can thank, and also I was a caregiver. What tips can you give those listening who may be caregivers?
Okay. Well, I have my main caregiver is my husband, Stephen, and he's been a rock and just an amazing positive influence, always cheering me on and telling me I can do more than I think I can do. And so I really feel like he's been made a difference. I'm also lucky enough to have my sister nearby, and she's also very much there for me, and I can depend on her. And then I have my childhood friend, Jody, who lives out in LA, who comes with me to conferences and is like, has my back, and went to Sonoma County with me to do the ride for Michael J. Foundation, and I wouldn't have been able to do it if she didn't come. And so I have her, I have all three of them, like, and they're all very close. And so to answer the second part of your question, what would I advise to caregivers? Um, take care of yourself, make sure you get out and exercise and sleep and have your boundaries. And I would say listen, active listening, and just what would I say the third thing is?
Well, while you're thinking of that, we want to send our love and support to your family and everyone around you because they also, what they do and the support to you means the world to us. And so we send hugs to them too.
I would say the third thing is keep your sense of humor and don't be so serious all the time, and lighten, keep things a little lighter at times because laughing is very healthy. Find
Yeah.
time to be silly and have fun.
Yeah, I love that you were also in the improv because we had Phil Jerky on the show who does comedy in the UK, and also
Oh, I know him. He
we
spoke
had and Dan has been on the show too from well, he used
in
to be.
Thompson.
And so it's really important to smile, even though it's sometimes it's not the easiest. And I know even when my mother was struggling, we tried to make her kind of giggle or laugh as much as we could. But sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But it's important to kind of look at you after today's conversation as like a role model of somebody who I wish I had the opportunity to introduce you to my mother. I think we
Oh,
both would have had a beautiful talk together, but we didn't have the technology then, and I didn't even, I felt alone. And she actually never met someone with Parkinson's, sadly, after all the work I've done as of today. So many incredible people like you would have really meant the world to us. So you still
now
do
that you
today.
say that, I would say community is also, make sure as a caregiver you have community, because I think my husband, he feels alone sometimes, but he did come to the World Parkinson Congress last year and
Mhm.
he had a buddy, and that was like really fulfilling for him, and he felt supported.
And what you mentioned a few things earlier, but maybe you can kind of summarize what types of things do you do to help you with the progression? I know we talked about exercise, maybe
Yeah.
diet and health. Is there any other things you might recommend for someone who might be diagnosed listening?
Yeah, I think that other things that I do to support myself is to maintain a positive mindset. And I do that through meditation. I do that through, I work with an intuitive healer, and I really work on listening, making decisions based on my intuition. And I always know the answer when I really get quiet and listen to myself. And being in nature and finding a place where I'm connected to like a higher power, like the awesomeness of nature, just calms me and makes me feel like there's something bigger out there that's more important. That's, I don't know, that we're all a part of. I also do the writing, which is, as I said, has been very healing for me. But the positive mindset is really critical, and I've been able, it's very easy to go down the rabbit hole if you let yourself, and you have to really, I find that you have to really dig deep to like stay above that. And it's helped me get through a lot of hard times.
I
Like
love
having
that.
community. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Even the nature one I never heard before, and I feel like we should have done this show in the outdoors. It's so
I
beautiful.
know. Maybe we will be
Like,
able to do that one time.
yeah, I mean, I think you just brought up, meditation, even Tai Chi, yoga. There's so many things now that help, but we weren't aware 10 years ago. And so important too that you bring that up. But I like the nature one. I'm going to use that if I
Okay. Well, it's real for me. Like
yeah,
when
so,
I go to California and I'm on the Pacific Ocean with the cliffs and you're overlooking the ocean on these mountains. And when I go in the mountains, I feel the separation. I think when you get out of the hustle bustle of everyday life and into beauty, it's very healing.
yeah. And who is your hero or inspiration?
Oh, it's a good question. I would have to say Michael J. Fox. I mean, he's just so,
Everyone.
I've read his books, I've watched the movies, his documentary still. And I just feel like he's so strong and so resilient
Was
and
he
positive.
was he at the Unity Walk the year you were there? Because he showed up last year.
He wasn't. I was so bummed that I couldn't go. But I couldn't walk.
All right.
That was the time where but I heard he went there. No, he wasn't, but I met him once. And then and he was, for the 5 minutes I spoke with him, I just felt like he was really a
Yeah.
positive force.
Yeah. No, I agree. And he could have, I always say, could have led a private life, which is nothing wrong with, but instead he
Yeah,
decided to advocate and fight for everyone. So he's my hero as well as you. That I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Here's a few more, but if you were
Uh,
asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it?
oh wow. Traveling on the journey.
I like that. That's another topic, traveling. That's not,
Oh yeah, I love
that's
to
why I talk about traveling, because someone with Parkinson's or caregivers, it's not always the easiest to travel. You have
it's
maybe you could touch a little bit of, let's say tomorrow you have to leave the beautiful area you're in and go to Florida or Arizona. What's the typical traveling like? Is it a little bit tougher due to PD or?
yeah. When I sit for a long time, it brings back my back pain and I get really stiff. And it's harder because it's just you need to move around more. But I do go in when they say people with disabilities or people that need extra time, I do allow myself to take advantage of that. That helps a lot. I always have water with me. I have a water bottle that I carry around and you can fill with water. I always have snacks with me, comfortable clothing. Um, I sometimes use my points to get first class, but that's harder to get all the time, but that obviously makes it easier. But I make sure that I got a really easy roller suitcase so that like walking and the suitcase just goes really easily. And that's a big deal. And I don't take a heavy carry-on that I have to carry on my back or my shoulder. Those have made big differences. Like the equipment you have is really important.
I think you could even probably maybe in the next blog write a whole one on traveling.
I really could. I'm gonna make a mental note of
The
that.
reason I do these shows is I try to think of areas that, because every person's unique journey is different, but certain topics are always the same, but that's one, the nature and also travel that is the first time. And a year now, a few months doing this that I really actually am really interested in. So I'll be staying tuned and I hope everybody else is also. Final question is if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
Um, Stay positive. Um, Speak out about Parkinson's. Take care of yourself, be your own advocate, and accept your what you've been dealt, but don't give up. And you're resilient and you're strong.
Well, I really appreciate that and your time, and even more importantly, your friendship over the few years. And I look forward to doing so much more together. I wanted to thank you and also everyone listening. Please go right now if you can to shakingupparkinson.com and subscribe like I did live here. And please visit Miriam at the World Parkinson Congress and stay tuned. I do have a little message for you, Miriam, and everyone listening. We love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Miriam, will advocate for you, and I feel together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started because there's tough days, like you mentioned, for both of us with back pain, and for you, diagnosis, for me, loss of my mother. Just a
Yeah,
few weeks ago would have been her birthday, so it was a tough day. But every time I see, your inspiring work or your speeches or talking with you today, kind of sends a little message to my heart to never give up and to keep fighting by your side and everybody out there. But we need everyone listening to share this to support Miriam. And both of us don't want anything. It's the weirdest show, like usually you have a show, you say like Shark Tank, but wait, there's more. And then you throw some money out, but that's not, we just want to cure. We want to make sure people who aren't aware are, want to make sure people who are diagnosing caregivers and families know that you're never alone. And, we'll just keep fighting until we have it at our doorstep. So wanted to just thank you again, Miriam. Thank everyone for listening. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to many more great times together. So thanks
thank you. I appreciate all your work.
it means the world. And thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. As I always say when we end, you have to share this, please. You have to remember that we can't stop fighting till the cure is at our doorstep. So we have a lot more work to do. And we have some incredible people like Miriam heading this advocacy and Mr. Michael J. Fox. So thank you all. We send our love and support, and we'll see you soon.